Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is the live game review of our 1-1 draw against Manchester United at Old Trafford yesterday afternoon. Another fantastic result for Everton, another really good solid performance by Duncan Ferguson's Everton team. Another one we can sit back and be really proud of. And you know what? I think at times we were quite unlucky to have drawn that game yesterday. We did have opportunities to win it. Obviously, United scoring within the final 10 minutes. We, got the first goal within about 20-25 minutes. So I do think there was an element of luck there and us being unlucky as to not win it. But regardless, going to Old Trafford and getting a point out of that game is good under any manager in any circumstance for me. And seeing again the lads turn up yesterday and fight and battle and really show and give it 110% for the badge and for themselves and for the fans and for the manager as well. It was really nice to see. We said before in the game preview that the biggest thing to look out for in this game is whether we're going to be able to keep up that fight and whether we're going to be able to keep up that passion that we saw against Chelsea at Goodison Park. And we knew that it is easier to put in that type of performance at home because you've got your home crowd there, 40,000 fans singing Duncan Ferguson, and I know Everton's away supporters absolutely unbelievable, but when you've got 70,000 odd Manchester United fans around you, we always knew it was going to be tough, and we always knew that an away game was going to be a lot different to how we'd play at home. And it was always the question as to whether we'd be able to go out and whether we'd be able to put up the same type of performance and whether we were going to be able to battle for 90 minutes away from home as well. And that's exactly what the lads done yesterday. Give it 110% throughout the entire game. Mason Holgate having to step up into central midfield was absolutely unbelievable. Dominic Calvert-Lewin up front as well, fantastic once again. And the rest of the team, I think they really put in a shift. And considering the injuries that we've had over the last week or so, which we'll go into talking about in just a second, a 35-year-old Leighton Baines coming in, and replacing Luca Dean after 15-20 minutes, and absolutely pocketing one of the quickest wingers in the Premier League is, it just shows how hard these players are willing to work for the manager and how hard they're willing to work for themselves. I just want to say a couple of things before we go into the live game preview. Firstly, I hope you enjoyed the new background. Like the new background, there's a little bit of a Christmas themed background. Joe, who does all the graphics, has made me this, so I hope you do enjoy it. Secondly, there's absolutely no heating in our house. There's no hot water, so it's absolutely freezing. So if you see me shivering at any point in the live stream, or if you see me wiping my nose, it's purely because I've got a cold, because of how cold it is in our house. I know, a week before Christmas and the boiler decides to blow up. It's not ideal, but anyway, we've got to do the game reviews, haven't we? And there's absolutely no way I'm going to miss talking about this performance yesterday. Another real solid performance, and again, off the back of that performance, Duncan Ferguson, it's been confirmed by the football club that Duncan Ferguson will be in charge for the game against Leicester on Wednesday. Now, that all seemed pretty assured, really. I think after yesterday's result, the fact that it's only a couple of days away, I think we all knew that Duncan Ferguson would be in charge of the game on Wednesday, and it didn't come as a shock to us when the club announced it. What's come as a little bit of a shock to us over the last hour or so is that Sky Sports and more, I think importantly, Alan Myers, on behalf of Sky Sports, if this was just any other Sky Sports presenter, I think a lot of us would go, yeah, whatever, it's Sky Sports, it's probably just being thrown out there for Sky Bet. But Alan Myers, who we know has got a real close relationship with Everton and a close relationship with Evertonians, and doesn't tend to give out any information unless he believes in himself, has stated that Carlo Ancelotti is actually in Liverpool, ready to begin talks with Everton over the potential of him joining as Marco Silva's replacement. Now, it's really interesting because A, it came out of nowhere, and B, other reporters are announcing that Carlo Ancelotti is nowhere near Liverpool and he's actually in Rome, and he's going to be heading to Naples tomorrow, which again is another city in Italy, and then he's off to Vancouver on his holidays, which is in Canada. And it's quite interesting how Sky Sports are reporting one thing so clear as that he's in Liverpool and he's willing to talk, and he's ready to talk to Everton and he's ready to listen to offers, and Everton have approached him, and another various other journalists, Galeem Balling League, I don't know how to say his name, I really don't, but who he is. He's the Spanish reporter who has coincidentally worked for Sky Sports before, and various other reporters, a couple from The Athletic as well, who are quite a reliable source, stating that he's not in the country at all and he's still in Italy and he's ready to go over to Canada for his holidays. So it's not a mix-up where you can go, I understand that. It's not like one saying he's in Liverpool and another saying no, he's in London. Literally one person saying he's in this city and another journalist who could be seen as very reliable is saying he's nowhere near this country, never mind this city, and he's actually on his way to Canada tomorrow. So yeah, it's one of them who's lying, who's telling the truth, who you believe sort of thing. I personally, I'd like to believe Alan Myers, because like I said, I think Alan Myers is very, very careful with what he says, very, very careful with what he gives out, and I think due to his relationship with Evertonians, I went to a night with Gary Stevens a couple of weeks ago, and Alan Myers presented it. He is an Evertonian himself. He doesn't like to give information out unless he believes it to be true himself. On the other hand, Galeen Baliga, he's been proven to chat wham before, but it is really, really interesting. It's obviously worth a mention. It's not really anything to do with the game preview, and that's why I've mentioned it at the start, so we can get it out the way. We don't know where Carlo Ancelotti is or what in fact he's doing. We're being given conflicted information by multiple different sources that we're meant to see as reliable. One thing's for sure, whoever comes out as to be, the liar in this case and to not be telling the truth, whether it be Sky or whether it be the other journalist, I think it's quite fair to say that their credibility is going to go, going to absolutely fall to bits, and people aren't probably going to listen to them ever again, because you can't just make up a story out of nothing just to get people to bet on your betting app, which is what we've seen with Sky before. But I'd like to trust Alan Myers. I'd like to believe what Alan Myers says, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. Again, as we all got our hopes up, as we all decided to get excited because we were led to believe Carlo Ancelotti is in Liverpool to discuss the Everton job, it's shut down by a load of other journalists that say no, actually he's in Italy, and he's ready to go to Canada. He's not got any plans to go to Liverpool. So, yeah, we'll have to see where that one goes, of course. But anyway, like I said, I wanted to get that one out the way because we're not here to talk about Carlo Ancelotti. We're here to talk about Duncan Ferguson. We're here to talk about Everton Football Club and our 1-1 draw with Manchester United at Old Trafford yesterday. I'll get into the live comments in just a second. If you're enjoying the stream, by the way, please do hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. It only takes a second. And why not share the stream as well to all your friends, all of your family, to make sure that everybody can get involved, as many people as possible. I'm going to tweet the stream out now so everybody knows that we are live before we get into any of the juicy information about yesterday's game. It was quite the performance, wasn't it, by Everton? Another
without promotion,
solid. There's another advert. Don't get that out me way. Advert about lemonade, that can go. Another real solid Everton performance, and another performance that I think we can all be proud of. And we're seeing quite a few Evertonians on Twitter a little bit disappointed with the fact that we didn't come away with more than a point yesterday, and I think that shows how well the players played, and I think how it shows the difference in the team over the last 2 or 3, 2 weeks since, Marco Silva's left his role as manager and Duncan Ferguson stepped in, is that we're now disappointed with the point away from home at Old Trafford against Manchester United, where if you'd have said to us 3 weeks ago, you've got Chelsea and Manchester United, you're going to get 4 points out of those games, I think we'd have probably laughed at you and said, yeah, you're talking out your arse, mate, see you later. And that just, shows how well Duncan Ferguson's done. But before we go into talking about the performance, I just want to talk about how, in my opinion, we are the unluckiest team in Premier League history, and I honestly believe that. And that's not just based off refereeing decisions or VAR decisions as it might be this season. We've had an absolute shitload of them go against us, haven't we? We've had an absolute shitload of refereeing decisions over the last decade go against us, a shitload of VAR decisions just this season. It's not even based on that. It's based on things that you can't even say a bias or corrupt. I'm sure you all know I'm a firm believer in that there's some form of corruption in football in this country and to do with VAR and the referees. But this you can't even manage, and it's injuries. Again, yesterday, before the game, an hour before the game, we found out that Jabril Sidibe and Gylfi Sigurdsson had picked up a bug during the night and were unavailable to play. Now, okay, Gylfi Sigurdsson hasn't been fantastic this season. Played really well against Chelsea last week, obviously. Stepped up, was running around, was working for his place, and was actually fighting and was battling. And I think it's disappointing that Gylfi obviously missed yesterday's game because of how well he played against Chelsea. Jabril Sidibe, on the other hand, for me, has been one of our best performers over the last 5 or 6 weeks. Even, towards the back end of Marco Silva's Everton career, Jabril Sidibe was stepping up and he was proving that he should be the number one right back in this Everton team. And obviously it's really disappointing, again, an hour before kick-off, to see yesterday that both of those two were going to miss the game due to illness. And it just adds to Fabian Delph, Morgan Schneiderlin, Theo Walcott, Andre Gomez, Jean-Philippe Gabam and Benny Beningame, and a list of various other players that are currently out injured that we cannot utilise. We've got such a thin, depleted squad, and this is why it makes results and performances like yesterday's and the one against Chelsea so good, is because Duncan Ferguson's getting these performances out of players that are playing out of position, out of a squad that are very, very depleted and not very, not very full of players. Now, we'll talk about the Moise Kean situation a little bit later on in the live team. I don't want to talk about it firstly because I think it's kind of overlooked what was, for me, a really, really good performance by a lot of the team. Pretty much every player that put an Everton shirt on give it 110%. Well, every player that put an Everton shirt on give it 110% and performed fantastically yesterday. And that's why I don't necessarily want to go straight in and just constantly talk about the Keane situation, because I think it overlooks that a little bit. So we will talk about it, obviously, because it's a massive, massive talking point from yesterday's game. We'll talk about it a little bit later on in the stream. But like I said, the injuries, you only have to look at the players that we've got out injured, and you think how difficult it must be to get a performance out of this squad, how difficult it must be to get results in games against the likes of Manchester United and Chelsea. And Duncan Ferguson is doing that. Not only did we have Jabril Sidibe and Gylfi Sigurdsson out, Luca Dean stumbling off after 20-25 minutes. We seen Luca Dean picked up a slight injury against Chelsea. He was taken off and he passed the late fitness test, but obviously he wasn't always, he wasn't all the way there. He wasn't completely fit. He stumbled off after 20 minutes, and a 35-year-old Leighton Baines had to come on. And I just want to give a real special shout out to Leighton Baines now, because he's a player that over the last 18 months hasn't played a lot of football at all, hasn't strung a couple of performances together. Not only that as well, but has had his fair share of injuries himself. Don't think that just because Leighton Baines hasn't been playing that he's been sitting on the bench, fit as a fiddle, ready to step in when he's needed. He hasn't. He's had his fair share of injuries. He's been out with, injuries here and there that he's picked up in training, that he's picked up, out and about. And, Leighton Baines stepped in yesterday. 35-year-old fullback who we all know is one of the greatest fullbacks in Premier League history in his day, and he absolutely pocketed one of the fastest players in Premier League history now, and he performed like he'd never been out the team. He literally performed like he'd been consistently playing week in, week out, and that's his football and brain, and that's his professionalism. He stepped in. He wasn't moaning about being out the team when Luca Dean come in. He understood that. Luca Dean obviously were at the was the younger player and was the fitter player, and obviously at the time, now is the player that we need going forward. He wasn't moaning, he stepped in, he done exactly what he was asked to do, and I thought he was absolutely fantastic yesterday. And obviously Seamus Coleman coming in on the other side at right back because Jabril Sidibe was out again, come in and done a fantastic job. And I've been critical of Seamus Coleman this season because I think he's been poor, and I think there's been times when Seamus could have played an awful lot better than he did, and that's why Jabril Sidibe got his opportunity, and that's why he snatched it with both hands, and he's been playing fantastically well. But like I said, you only have to look at the team that we started out yesterday. You've got a 35-year-old left back who didn't start but come in very early on. You've got Seamus Coleman at right back, Mason Holgate at central midfield. We'll talk about him in just a second. Other central midfielders, Bernard, Iwobi, and then obviously the front two, the front three that we knew of, being Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison, of course. And you look at that and you think, how well have that team played, considering a lot of them either playing out of position or haven't had a lot of game time this season. Bernard hasn't started the Premier League game for Everton since the middle of October. Seamus Coleman hasn't started since the start of October. So you look at these facts and you think, well, okay, we might have been slightly disappointed to come away with only a point yesterday, and but you look at the players that we've got out and look at how thin and depleted our squad is at a time of the season when we need the biggest squad that we can possibly ever have. And that's just Everton's luck, isn't it? And that's why I honestly think we're the unluckiest team in Premier League history, because we're in the middle of December. We've got Leicester on Wednesday, we've got Arsenal on Saturday. We've got a whole load of tough fixtures coming up, and we've got 10, 12 key players out injured, and a lot of them that aren't going to come back during this period of time. And look at what the type of performances that Duncan Ferguson's getting out of the players that are playing. Mason Holgate, like we mentioned before, stepping in at central midfield, an absolutely unbelievable performance. For me, I'd argue that Mason Holgate was man of the match. Now, I'm not going to argue against Dominic Calvert-Lewin being the man of the match. He completely deserved it. I thought he was fantastic once again, but Mason Holgate, out of his natural position, stepping into central midfield, it will be very, very easy for Mason to just sit in front of that back line and just think, right, I'm just going to do the Morgan Schneiderlin job, or I'm just going to sit here in front of this back line and do the bare minimum of midfield work I can do, and just sort of hover around the defence and act as a sort of another defender. But he didn't. He was getting involved. He had 2 shots on target in the first 15-20 minutes. Yeah, he had another shot that went a little bit wayward and went a little bit towards the corner flag, but that's what you want. I've got absolutely no problem with the ball coming out to Mason Holgate on the edge of the box, and if he's playing centre midfield, have a crack, because the kid can hit the ball, and he proved it yesterday. He put a good cross in that very, very nearly ticked David De Gea and nearly went in, and he hit one again from about 20 yards, and it went on target, and I've got absolutely no issue with Mason Holgate having opportunities like that, and that's what I was really, really impressed with yesterday. Not only did he step into that central midfield position, and he done a very Gay-esque performance. I know it's a little bit cliche and it's been said before, but it was a Gay-esque performance. He swept up when he needed to. He was everywhere. He was winning in the ball. He dominated that midfield. He absolutely dominated that midfield. And in midfield, you know, of United players, Fred, who cost £50 million, he was head and shoulders better than Fred. Scott McTominay, who's played well for them this season, he made Scott McTominay look championship quality. He was absolutely fantastic yesterday. And like I said, he was getting involved further up the pitch as well, creating opportunities, having shots on goal himself, and he looked like he was really, really enjoying his game. He really, really enjoying that position. And Mason Holgate's never played central midfield before. He's not a central midfielder. He'd be out of position at right back, but you'd go, right, okay, well, you're out of position because you're a centre half, but you've played right back before, so you know it shouldn't be too out your comfort zone. He was completely out of his comfort zone yesterday. He was through in central midfield and told, do a job, and he done exactly that. And not only did he do a job, for me, he was man of the match. He was absolutely fantastic. And like I said, you know, the fact that we can get performances like that out of players that are playing out of position, the fact that we can get players like, you know, Leighton Baines, who haven't played an awful lot of football over the last 2 years, Seamus Coleman, who's been out the squad for months, playing to the best of their ability, is a credit to how well Duncan Ferguson is doing with this Everton team. And we know that Duncan Ferguson is probably not going to be the manager long term, and you know, Ferguson said himself yesterday, listen, I don't want the job long term. I'm here for as long as Everton want me, and I'm here to do a job, but in terms of long term, we want the very best managers, and he's been consistent in saying that ever since he was given the job on an interim basis. But one thing is for sure, is that Duncan Ferguson needs to be involved with whoever the next manager is, and for me, he needs to be the number 2. If he's not going to be given the job permanently, and I don't think he is, arguably because it's a massive, massive risk, I think Everton have looked at the likes of Manchester United and seen what happened when they give ex-players the job permanently. But, you know, more over than nothing, Duncan Ferguson doesn't want the job permanently. He said he's not ready himself and he doesn't want to take it yet. For me, he needs to be a number 2, definitely a number 2. Whether it doesn't matter who comes in, if it's Carlo Ancelotti, which I think we'd all be absolutely amazed by, and I think we'd all be so happy with, Duncan Ferguson needs to be that number 2, because he knows exactly what it means to play for Everton. He gets these players riled up, and regardless of whether you're a centre mid playing centre back, a centre forward playing left mid, a left mid playing centre forward, it doesn't matter. He's gonna get you riled up for the game of football, and you're going to give it 110%, and I think that's massively needed at this football club. But if he's not good enough and he's not confident enough to be the manager going forward on his own, he needs to be the number 2 of whoever comes in. And if you've got somebody that knows the club inside and out, and that the players will 100% listen to and are afraid to not perform for, we said this, you know, last week when after the game against Chelsea, there's a healthy fear, what feels like within the squads of Duncan Ferguson, is that they need to play for him, and the Moise Kean situation very much certifies that, and we'll talk about it, like I said, in a second. But that is needed, and if you're going to have a fantastic tactician with all of these different styles of play, like Carlo Ancelotti is unbelievable, brilliant, bring them in, but you need somebody like Duncan Ferguson next to him who knows the club and who knows how to get the bare minimum simplistic style out of these players, and that's what he got again yesterday, and that's why we come away with a point in what was a really, really good performance. If you're enjoying the scene, by the way, so far, please do hit that like button. It means a massive amount to me. If you're new to the channel as well, please do subscribe. Wayne says, Safecam was disappointed we never held on for the win, but at least we were not throwing games anymore. Big game Wednesday, but we're going to be short on players. Baines would worry me playing again. Baines is going to have to play an awful lot of games in the next couple of weeks, mate. I don't think Luca Dean will be fit for Wednesday. I don't even think Luca Dean will be fit for Saturday, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. In regards to throwing games away, again, 1-0 up, 10 minutes to go, we can see that goes to 1-1. A lot of managers, experienced or not, would have been very tempted there to just throw another centre half on, or throw another centre midfield and just go, everybody sit behind the ball and let's just hold out for a point. Duncan Ferguson, no, he takes one striker off for another striker and starts to go for the win, and that just shows that he's got that never give up attitude, and the players believe in that. You can see that in the players concede and they don't go, oh well that's it, now we've lost the game, or edge down, or this. They go, nah, you know what, we go again, let's go for another opportunity, and it's that type of mentality that you need at the football club. And I think we've been speaking about mentality for a long time at Everton, a long time, and we've been speaking about how it runs through the club, not just managers, not just players, but board members as well. Maybe, just maybe, if Duncan Ferguson isn't the person that's going to manage Everton over the next 2, 3, 4 months, if he's not confident doing that, maybe he's the man that's going to bring in that mentality that's needed at this football club. John says, hi Jonathan, hope you're doing well. CJ says, I personally thought until they battered us in the second half until they scored. Listen, Man United had more opportunities, they had more possession, they were the better footballing team. I'm not disagreeing with that, and I think at times there were Everton players that were poor on the ball. Alex Iwobi, for one, I'll say, should have been an awful lot better on the ball at times, but he didn't stop trying, and there wasn't one Everton player that stopped trying and that gave up yesterday, and that is really, really important, because for me, we can excuse players not being at the top of the game. We can excuse players not having all of the ability in the world. We cannot excuse players that do not try and do not give 110%. And that was the issue that we had under Marco Silva. As players were not only poor and couldn't string 2 passes together, but they also weren't arsed. And that for me is such a bad combination. Whereas now under Duncan Ferguson, we've got players that seem arsed and are arsed, and even when they're not putting in 100, even when their performances isn't as good as they should be, they're still giving it 110%, and that's what's needed for me. PG Danny says, so devastating when Mason Greenwood scored, but was a bloody performance, and it was very lucky on our behalf to get the goal. Yeah, the goal was lucky, but I think you make your own luck, don't you, in those situations. And if Dominic Calvert-Lewin doesn't challenge for the ball and doesn't, get in the way and rough David De Gea up a little bit, then he doesn't make that mistake. And it's not a foul whatsoever. David De Gea needs to be stronger, and he's clouding the fact that he needs to be stronger by trying to claim for a foul when realistically he hasn't been a world-class goalkeeper for quite some time, in my opinion. It wasn't a foul whatsoever. Yes, we were a little bit lucky for it to come off their defender and go in, but, like I said, in that situation, you make your own luck a little bit, don't you? Lavin says, we were undone by 3 touches of class by a very, very good young player, have it done. Jonathan says, is Ancelotti in Merseyside? We don't know, do we? We don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Biggie Small says, with the amount of injuries, it's amazing Big Dunk got something out the game. Exactly, spot on. It shows how well he's got these players playing. Lavrid says, overall, highly commendable. Spot on. Jamie says, a nice background, mate. Rate that cam. Thank you very much. Joe does designs. Joe does graphics on Twitter. He done the background, obviously, as he does all of the graphics for the channel. So big shout out to Joe. Sonny says, thoughts on Ancelotti? I'd love him at Everton Football Club. I think he'd be great if Duncan Ferguson's there as the number 2. Absolutely perfect, but we'll have to wait and see, won't we? Ruben says, yes, Cam, glad to be back. Thank you very much, Ruben. Glad to have you back. Wayne says, do you actually think Ancelotti's going to care about us? I just feel he's after the money. Wouldn't be my main pick, but can't argue with his regime. Maybe, and I think that's why it's important that we have somebody like Duncan Ferguson in there to make sure that he knows what it means to be the manager of Everton Football Club, and he knows what it means for us fans to watch us week in, week out. And I think that's why, for me, if he's not the number 2 by officiality, because obviously Ancelotti will come in with his team and he'll probably have a number 2. Duncan Ferguson needs to be very, very close to Carlo Ancelotti, if he is to come in. Cass says, where is Ancelotti? Who knows? Lavrid says, the Carlo story is interesting because Arsenal have shown interest in Arteta. Yeah, it looks like Arteta's going to go to Arsenal. Jack says, I don't mind if we don't get Ancelotti. We have Big Dunk who loves the fans. Definitely does. He is a fan. Biggie says, Ancelotti's a great manager, to be fair, he is. Ruben says, I'd say keep Big Dunk till after the Leicester game for sure, as we need to put up a fight against them. He will be there. He will be managing the Leicester game. That's already been confirmed by the club. Natty says, Ancelotti with Dunk as assistant manager would be a dream ticket for me. It would be unbelievable, that. Wayne says, Arteta to Arsenal is done deal. I'm pleased we've not gone there. To be honest, I'd just like to keep Big Dunk going now, as he's proven he can get results from a depleted squad. How bad was Silva, though? Fair play. Keith says, keep Dunk's Everton's DNA is about passion and playing hard, not fancy football. We're not City or a La Liga club. We have money now and a new stadium in the works. Let's keep Dunk. He gets us fans. A lot of people for keeping Dunk. Jem says, alright, Cam, and Ancelotti's on Merseyside. It's not for the other lot. Exactly. Exciting, but is he on Merseyside? Is he not? Is it just reporters chatting out their bum? We don't know. We'll have to wait and see, don't we? But anyway, yeah, like I said, for me, not just the level of performance, not just the level of agency, not just the result yesterday, but the fact that, Duncan Ferguson had these players playing to the level that they played at, considering a lot of them were playing out of position, or a lot of them were playing for the first time in a long time, just shows how good he is, and just shows that, when some people are having a go at his man management because of certain situations yesterday, they don't really talk about how good his man management is to get players playing in unnatural positions and playing as well as the likes of Mason Holgate did, and even Bernard, who was playing centre midfield at times, did as well. So anyway, yeah, like I said, a real strong defensive performance. I thought we were absolutely fantastic defensively. Again, it was a game very similar to the Chelsea game. I said it in instant match reaction, where you are sitting on the edge of your seat. It's not. Everton under Duncan Ferguson is never going to be an easy, relaxing watch, because they're always going to be games where we're most likely to be getting pampered with balls, because it's simplistic play. It's 4-4-2, and it's fight, battle, fight, and go and win every ball and break forward. And we'll beat a lot of teams doing that, because a lot of teams won't want to come and fight. But when in having those tactics and in having that style, we're going to get a lot of teams that are going to pepper us with shots, with possession constantly, and that's exactly what Manchester United done yesterday. And I thought we were very, very strong to withhold that for a long time. Michael Keane put in a much, much better performance than he did against Chelsea. Again, following on from his final 10 minutes, 20 minutes against Chelsea last week. Really solid. Yerry Mina again, really, really solid. Both fullbacks, fantastic. The one, obviously, moment that we let it slip was the goal 77 minutes in, obviously after being 1-0 up for the majority of the game. And I'd say we looked comfortable defensively, because everybody was fighting for every ball and nobody was strolling around and nobody was giving up. I think it would be unfair just to say that Manchester United had no opportunities whatsoever. They did have opportunities. They were constantly having opportunities from the first 5 seconds, when Jesse Lingard could have put one away, to like I said, the 77th minute when Mason Greenwood comes on, obviously for Manchester United, a couple of good touches and squeezes it through a couple of defenders' legs. And I've watched this goal a couple of times, and I didn't really think about it during the game, because you just think, oh shit, don't drop your heads now. But I watched it back a couple of times, and it makes me think, does Jordan Pickford need to do better in this situation? Now, I'm putting that out as a question to everybody. Don't dive on me yet. I haven't said he does. I haven't said he doesn't. I'm putting that out to everybody. Everybody watching live, and everybody in the comments, if you're watching as a YouTube video, let me know, should Jordan Pickford do better? Because for me, you could argue that the defense on the defensive side, we should do better as well, because a ball squeezes through 3 or 4 Everton players and manages to get on target, which shouldn't happen anyway. But should Jordan Pickford be positioned a little bit better as to come across quicker to that? Because it wasn't a massively fast moving shot. It was on the floor. It was tight nicked to the corner, but I think if Jordan had been a little bit more aware to it, he could have potentially got an arm on it and saved it. Now again, maybe that's just being a little bit critical of Jordan Pickford. I know a lot of people have been a little bit critical of him in recent weeks. I think I'm more critical of the fact that he doesn't command his box enough. For me, he needs to come out and he needs to command a lot more. And when you've got us putting defensive performances in like we have been doing, where we're putting our bodies on the line, over the last 2 weeks we've put our bodies on the line for every single ball, throwing ourselves into last ditch tackles and make sure we're getting there first. I think Jordan Pickford should be doing his bit as well by coming out and commanding and punching the ball and catching the ball when needed, and not being too tight to his line. But could he have done better? For me, listen, I'd say obviously it's a lot easier to talk about it, and it's a lot easier to say, oh yeah, he should have done better, than it is to actually to do better. But I think it could have stopped that goal if he'd been a little bit more aware to it. But anyway, that's one negative in a game that was full of positives for me. Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison were another positive. Talking about positives again, 4-4-2 formation by Duncan Ferguson. Nobody really knew it was a 4-4-2 formation at the start of the game. It was maybe led to believe to be a 4-5-1. Or a 5-3 whatever with 3 centre backs, 5-3-2 sorry, but it was a 4-4-2 in the end. Mason Holgate obviously slipping in at centre midfield, like we mentioned. Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison playing up front for the second time in 2 weeks, and for the second time in 2 weeks, Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison putting in an absolutely fantastic performance together. I thought the pair of them were absolutely immense. Once again, Dominic Calvert-Lewin ultimately getting man of the match from both Sky and Everton, and Richarlison, who again, what he lacked yesterday in creating and what he lacked in goals, he definitely makes up for in defensive work and working hard and throwing himself about and using his strength. And he seems, which I didn't think would happen actually, since Marco Silva's left and since he signed that new contract, he seems a little bit re-energized, and like he wants to fight a lot more for the badge, and he wants to get involved. And I don't know whether he's being freed tactically or whether he's being given a little bit more space, but he seems like he wants to do an awful lot more fighting and an awful lot more working, and for me that's obviously it's fantastic to see. And I think the pair of them yesterday again, despite the fact that they didn't score, both of them were involved in the goal by putting David De Gea off, say that. But yeah, I thought they were absolutely both fantastic once again, and they becoming a real tough partnership. And Duncan Ferguson said at the end of the game in his pre-game interview, I'm a big fan of the 4-4-2. It worked last week and it's worked again today. And interesting to hear them comments from an Everton manager, considering the last Everton manager said he's not a fan of 4-4-2 and it doesn't work. So yeah, obviously I think both players were really good, and obviously moving on to a 4-4-2, it's worked, and let's be perfectly honest, it's worked. Even when you've got centre backs playing centre midfield and left backs who are 35 playing left back, it works, doesn't it? And I think that's the most important thing. And I think that we spoke when Duncan Ferguson first come in, and we spoke after the Chelsea game about Duncan Ferguson not being a manager with shed loads of experience, and he's potentially only going to know one way, and that's to work hard, to fight, to battle, and 4-4-2, playing simplistic football. And that's exactly what Duncan Ferguson has taught these lads to do, and that's exactly what they've done over the last 2 weeks, and it's worked, hasn't it? It's worked. And again, it worked yesterday with another fantastic, hard work and solid performance. Obviously, I think one of the biggest, if not potentially the biggest talking point of the game, obviously was the Moise Kean situation. Now, Moise Kean obviously coming on with about 25, half an hour to go, come on, spent 18 minutes on the pitch and then was taken off. As soon as he was taken off, edged straight down, didn't even look at Duncan Ferguson, walked straight past Duncan Ferguson, straight past his teammates and straight down the tunnel. And at first it wasn't nice to see, and you are thinking about what's gone on in that situation, what's gone wrong, what's happened, why has that happened, because not often do you see a substitute come on and then be taken off without any reason, without any clear injury, without any clear situation that's happened. He wasn't booked, he hadn't made a foul, he hadn't pulled up with an injury, and you are sort of worrying a little bit. And I want to give a couple of points of view in this one, because I do understand the player's point of view and I do understand the point of view from the manager, and then I'll give my opinion before we go on to talking about it, because it will be a topic that we talk about for quite some time, because I think there's a lot of people that are split between the situation. I want to get back into the live comments and see what you guys are saying. Ruben says, only problem I see is how basic but are effective are players, but how long will it take teams to suss us out? Fair point, and maybe that's why Duncan isn't, maybe that's why Duncan isn't prepared to keep the job for as long as maybe some fans want him. Natty said, I didn't want Arteta at Arsenal, are welcome to have him. I don't particularly want him either. I don't think he's experienced enough. Jack says, Baines to play versus Leicester, he more than likely will. Alex says, yes Cam, yes Alex, hope you're doing well. Paul says, is Ancelotti and Merseyside news bollocks or not, Cam? We don't know. Alan Myers is stating that it's true, and I do trust Alan Myers. Like I said, he's got a real good relationship with Evertonians, and I think Alan Myers is the type of person that will only report something if he believes it to be true. Other journalists saying it's not true, so it's interesting, and we'll have to wait and see. Jem says, straight away with when Baines come on, we had that special left foot back on set pieces. Some say our goal was lucky, but Baines put it where it had to be to cause problems. Exactly, and another real positive to Baines' game was that cross. The ball that consequently caused the goal was an absolutely fantastic ball in, really good corner, caused the Manchester United defence an awful load of problems, and obviously David De Gea wasn't good enough to deal with it, and that's just it, innit? Wallpaper Flembot says, only just tuned in, how's it going, Cam? I'm not too bad, mate, hope you're doing well. 2 weekends on the bounce now that Everton haven't ruined. Good times, certainly is. Ralph says, Ancelotti is on Merseyside, lad, we hope so. Fatal Shot says, do you think we would get Ancelotti? I would hope so, but I suppose we're just going to have to wait and see, aren't we? We're going to have to wait and see. Jamie says, Cam, isn't Ancelotti not just going to come in and try and get this lot to play a 4-3-3-4-5-1? I think he should come in the summer so we can get the players into suit the system. I don't know, I'll have to wait and see. Really good point though, maybe he will come in and try that. Jem says, that Ralph could be very good for us, but if not, Duncan can still do a job for us. Fair play. 1878 ST said, lad, keep up the channel, it's great, lad. Thank you very much, really do appreciate that. Helbo says, hello Cam, what do you think of the Moise Kean situation? We're literally about to talk about it in a second. Paul says the same. Eugene says, I think Everton will beat Leicester in the cup. I hope so. Paul also says 7 points from Chelsea United and Arsenal looking likely, lad. Who would have thought that a few weeks ago under Silva? Exactly spot on. Jem says, hope so, Eugene. Jem also says, everyone give a like, thumbs up, Cam, great show. Thank you very much, really do appreciate that. Yeah, if everybody could hit that like button, it'd mean a massive, massive amount to me. And if you're new to the channel as well, please do subscribe. It only takes a second. Gort says, I'm hoping Everton play with heart when I come to watch my first Everton match at Goodison Park next month on the 21st when I come from Minnesota. Greetings from Minnesota, and hopefully we do. Paul says, I believe we can win the cup if we get through Leicester. Liverpool will field their kids and probably go out. City field the reserves, and we have already shown we can match Chelsea and United. Exactly, spot on, I agree. Ralph says, mate, Duncan is special. What a man, what a fella he is. Exactly. Jem says, well in, Gort, I'm sure they will. Tom says, Ancelotti is great big club manager, but not sure how he will do at our club with players who aren't top class. It's a good point, and it is a concern. I think it's a better concern to have than some of the concerns we've got with other candidates, like David Moyes being absolutely shite. But it is definitely a concern. Jem says, aye, Tom, I think they are. How much money has he spent over the years now? They're defo not mugs, and under the right guidance can be way better than they are. And Lavavid says, Duncan has been brought out extra from all of the players. There is always that extra pass, that extra run, that extra tackle. Pickford has played above himself. Yeah, exactly, and there's that extra effort from the players, and that's exactly what was needed, and that's exactly what, these players needed. To kick up the arse and to be told you need to start playing for your wage. Basically, you need to start performing for your wage, because the way you've been playing is not good enough, and that's exactly what Duncan Ferguson brings. Anyway, the Moise Kean situation. Listen, like I said, I didn't want to talk about it at the start of the game. I didn't want to and I didn't want to just have it as the title and it be the big talking point and talk for half an hour about that and then talk for 8 minutes about the game itself, because I think it unfortunately and sadly does, overlook what for me was an absolutely fantastic performance, and it overlooks the performances from the likes of Mason Holgate, from the likes of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, from the likes of Tom Davies, Leighton Baines, who were all absolutely unbelievable. But it's a situation that we need to talk about at the end of the day, because it is, it did happen, and there is split opinions on it. Obviously, like I mentioned earlier on, Moise Kean coming on as a substitute, 18 minutes later being taken off as a substitute. Duncan Ferguson after the game stated that it wasn't anything personal towards Moise Kean, it wasn't anything personal towards the player. It was done purely because he needed to buy a little bit of time, and it was done because he needed fresh legs. Now, if you were to ask for my opinion, which I'm not sure whether you will, but I'm going to give you it anyway, I think that's a little bit of an excuse that Duncan Ferguson probably said and then thought, actually, that doesn't make much sense, because you don't really buy yourself time by making a substitution, because the time only gets added on. And in terms of fresh legs, it speaks to two things, basically. One, why is it fresh legs needed? Because Moise Kean's only just come on the pitch, so he is the fresh legs. Two, why is he unfit, and why is he tired after 18 minutes? And I think that's the big point. And I think people will look beyond this, and people will look beyond it and say Moise Kean doesn't like Duncan Ferguson, or they've had a big falling out in the training ground, or Moise Kean's attitude's unbelievably disgusting and this is why he hasn't worked under two managers. I think if we look at it on the surface first, and we just talk about the situation as we saw it with our eyes, what I seen was a player come on, be given an opportunity, play 18 minutes of football where he didn't do an awful lot, and he looked quite tired. He walked into the box at one point to go in for the corner and had his hands on his knees, huffing and puffing after walking into the box. Now, that is quite worrying for me. And then him coming off. Now, for me, on the surface, that's Duncan Ferguson saying, yeah, there's your opportunity in front of 75,000 fans at Old Trafford. Go on and take it. And after 10 minutes going, he's not fit. And I understand Duncan Ferguson, and I've got no issue with Duncan Ferguson then taking Moise Kean off, because he's looked at that situation and he's thought there could be a chance where, a Man United centre-back's got the ball in the last 3 minutes, and Moise Kean just thinks, I'm not even going to tack him down because he's not going to do anything with it. That centre-back then walks the whole length of the pitch, puts it in, and, one of their attackers scores from it, when that could have been avoided by, Moise Kean getting at the player, pressurising him and forcing him into a mistake. And I understand that, and I said on Twitter straight after the situation, if Moise Kean's being sent on with a certain amount of objectives, if Moise Kean's being sent on with instructions and he isn't following those instructions, or he isn't fit enough, then I've got no issue with him coming off whatsoever. That's the player's problem, and that's something that the manager's going to have to discuss with the player. Now, I understand from the player's point of view that it is a little bit embarrassing. It is a little bit, it's not nice. His confidence is already on his arse. He's been, some would say, embarrassed in front of 75,000 people at Old Trafford and in front of millions watching on Sky. But, how many, life doesn't always go smoothly. In life, sometimes you get a hard, tough lesson, and that's what Duncan Ferguson has given Moise Keane there. He's given a tough lesson. Now, whether Ferguson's made the wrong substitution and he's put Keane on and he's thought, shit, should have put Niasse on and I'm going to make that, then that's something that he'll have to discuss with Moise Keane and apologise for making the wrong substitution and having to do that. But if Duncan Ferguson's looked at that situation and gone, this kid ain't fit, or this kid ain't doing what I've told him to, so he's coming off for Niasse, who at the very least will run his arse off, and did run his arse off and created problems as soon as he come on. He put a tackle in, he was in the face of Man United defenders as soon as he come on. I've got absolutely no issue with that. We've been crying out as a fan base for a manager that's got a pair of bollocks for absolutely years. We've been crying out as a fan base for a manager that isn't afraid to make a tough decision and that isn't afraid to drag a player off if they're not playing well. Now, yeah, it might, it's unfortunate for Moise Keane and he didn't necessarily do anything wrong. And obviously it's not great because his confidence is rock bottom anyway, and it is a little bit embarrassing, but he was obviously brought off for a reason, whether that's because he wasn't following instruction or whether that's because he's unfit. He was brought off for a reason, and that's something that lad now has got to sit down and look at and decide whether A, I'm not happy here, I'm not happy the way I've been treated, I want to leave, or B, I'm going to get my head down and I'm going to work hard and I'm going to actually get to where I need to be and prove everybody wrong here. And that's the conversation that Duncan Ferguson needs to be having with him. If I was Moise Keane and I'd be going into Duncan Ferguson, I'd be asking him to explain the situation. And if I was Ferguson and it wasn't, let's say it is a fitness issue, for example, because I'm not going to go into discussing whether it might be an attitude issue or they don't like each other or whatever. Let's say, for example, it is a fitness issue and Moise Keane's gone on and Ferguson's looked at him after 15 minutes and thought, you're not fit. Duncan Ferguson needs to be going into Moise Keane and going, listen lad, I'm not afraid to drag you off after 10 or 15 minutes, whether it be at Old Trafford or whether it be at Stanley Park. If you're not fit enough and I think that you're not at the level to compete with this team, who potentially could go on and beat us and turn what would be a good performance into, a disappointing loss, you're coming off. So what you need to do now, Moise Keane, is be in training an hour before everybody else and an hour after everybody else, because you're not, and stay an hour after everybody else because you're not the fitness level of everybody else, and you need to work your ass off to get at that level. And I wouldn't be surprised if Moise Keane's in the starting 11 on Wednesday against Leicester. I wouldn't be surprised if Ferguson puts his arm around him and goes, right, I want to see some commitment now. I want to see some hard work. I want to see it in training 2 hours before everyone, and I want to see you staying an hour and a half after everyone. I want to see you working constantly, and you'll get your opportunity against Leicester and you'll go out. And I wouldn't be surprised if Moise Keane took that opportunity and scored a couple of goals on Wednesday night and proved that, because we all want Moise Keane to succeed, and I understand where some Evertonians are saying it's not fair and it's not right to do that and it's embarrassing to do that, but at the end of the day, as Ferguson rightly said himself after the game, it's about the team, it's not about an individual. And yesterday it was obviously the wrong player to bring on in the wrong circumstance, and he made that mistake and he rectified it by bringing him off. Now, whether that he shouldn't have done that to the player, whether he could have got away with leaving the player on, we don't know. We really don't know. But I've got no issue with Duncan Ferguson taking a player off, if they're not doing what they're being told to do, or if they're not at the level to do what they're being told to do, regardless of whether they're being on the pitch for 60 minutes, 70 minutes or 90 minutes. And, pardon me, sorry, the cold's starting to hit in now. A lot of people on social media, Twitter, etc. were saying that, well, why didn't he bring Alex Iwobi off, who was poor on the ball all game? Why didn't he bring Richarlison off, who played, 80 minutes and was struggling? Those players were still fighting and were still giving it 110% and were still fit enough to carry on going for the rest of the game. Moise Keane very clearly didn't look fit enough. For me, it's as simple as either didn't listen to his instructions given or he wasn't fit enough to compete. And for me, I've got no issue with the manager having the bollocks to say, you're coming off then, lad. You're coming off because you're not fit enough to compete. So you're coming off. And I'm bringing a player on in Oumar Niasse, let's be honest, is technically very poor and isn't going to give you anything other than running around and trying his hardest. And that's exactly what Niasse done. And for me now, in regards to the Keane situation, it's about the player himself sitting down and really thinking about what he wants out of this football club. Does he want to be a success? Does he want to be a success like we all want him to? And as a fan base, it's about time that we now think, right, it's on Moise Keane's feet now. He needs to be in the training ground working his absolute arse off week in, week out, and he needs to prove to this manager why he should be a part of this squad and why he's able to come off the bench and play, because at the end of the day, we scream as a fan base to have this lad starting week in, week out, but if he's not even fit enough to play the last 20 minutes of a game and he's having to be hauled off because he's not fit enough, that's really, really worrying, and that's something that the player needs to look at on himself and the player needs to do better. Yes, I understand it's a little bit embarrassing. And yes, I understand it. It's not a great situation for a player that's already low on confidence, but it's about the team. It's not about one individual player. And like I said, we've been screaming out for a manager who's got the balls to do that for quite a long time, and Ferguson's done that. And I fully expect Duncan Ferguson to have gone over to Moise Kean after the game, in the tunnel or in the dressing room, pulled him aside, put his arm around him, discussed it with him and said, you need to start working now, and I'm going to work with you, but we really need to start working, because that wasn't good enough, and that's why I had to take it off. He's not afraid to embarrass people, and it also sets the standard for everybody else on that pitch in an Everton shirt, and it also will make that entire squad look and go, listen, if I'm not playing to the best of my ability, I'm going to be ragged off. This manager doesn't give two shits. He doesn't care whether, I'm a £50 million player. He doesn't care whether I've been on for 2 minutes or whether I've been on for 90 minutes. He's going to rag me off if I'm not playing good enough. And that's exactly what he done with Moise Kean. And for me, I don't really have any issue with that, although it is embarrassing for the player. Again, it's about the team and not the player for me. If you're enjoying this team, by the way, please do hit that like button. It means a massive amount to me, and subscribe to the channel if you're new as well. Josh said, I feel he needs to have done better. We discussed about Pickford. Sonny says Pickford should do better for the United goal. Fair play, I said that myself. Wayne says, found Ferguson's comments on Keane a bit contradicting, saying he needed fresh legs. Let's be honest, he got ripped for not putting a shift in. Again, fair enough. But I also understand why Ferguson isn't going to come out and say, listen, he didn't put a shift in, so I ragged them off. I understand why he would sort of protect him in front of the television cameras. Hope we get rid in Chan. I don't want to get rid of Moise Kean. I just think Moise Kean needs to be told that he needs to knuckle down and he needs to start working to the level of a Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Moise Kean needs to look at Dominic Calvert-Lewin and think, I need to be competing like that for 90 minutes. I need to be fit enough to do that. I need to be working my ass off for 90 minutes. Because look at the response Dominic Calvert-Lewin's had, with Evertonians recently. He's an absolute fantastic footballer. 1878 ST says he's been shit of late, Pickford. Even his kicking has been poor. Laughing with the away fans, just concentrate. I agree. Jem says Pickford is erratic for me. Positional sense is wacky. Yeah, he is a little bit erratic. I agree with that one. And I agree with 1878 there. I really didn't like the smiling and laughing at away fans. I think it shows a lack of concentration. Tom says, thing is, Jen, we bought most of our players that haven't been ones to the top close, which usually means they aren't that top level player. Fair play. Wayne says, agree, Pickford moved his feet too slow for the goal. James says, I don't think that Tom. I think they were offered a good wage and a potentially great project. However, that so far hasn't come to fruition. I agree. I actually agree with that. Where are we? I've just lost me comments. Where are we? Here we go. Keith says, Pickford is arrogant. He definitely should have came out for that ball in the first half, but left Dean to handle it. His attitude towards Coleman, the captain of the team, showed he is immature. Fair play. Eugene says, do you think Everton needs to drop Jordan Pickford for Stecklenburg for the Leicester game? Don't know about Stecklenburg. Maybe Lossell. Don't know about Stecklenburg. Jem says, defo Keith, he's arrogant and a bit wacky. Tom says, Holgate could be a potential DM for me. Definitely, especially on that performance. Jem says, Steck's a good keeper, but being at the top of his game, full international for a great side. Pickford needs benching and has needed for a while. Fair play. Lavin says, as a fan, I felt sorry for Moise. I did feel sorry for him, and as a person, and as a young lad, I felt sorry for him. But, in life, you get, you get things like that happen to you, don't you? And the lads, again, I don't mean to bring the wage up or that it's got anything to do with anything, but the lad's a very, very lucky young footballer, and, he needs to be able to take that knockdown, and that might well be the making of Moise Kean. He might turn around in 4 or 5 weeks, shake Duncan Ferguson's hand and say, listen, thank you very much for doing that because I needed that wake-up call. Jack says, I want Lossell to play versus Leicester because Pickford has been made too many mistakes this season, or had too many minutes, and Lossell hasn't played this season. Fair play. James says, right, Cam. Now, it says, from Duncan's point of view, perhaps he was trying to make a point. Our energy levels dropped by 1% after Keane come on. Maybe he was trying to make a point. Game Killer says, I want Keane to play against Leicester. I would quite like to see Keane play against Leicester. I think it'd be nice to see. 1878 says, yeah, you're right, Moise is shite. Hernandez says, my heart almost stopped when I saw Cuco Martin and Umar Nias warming up. Don't know what in the world Nias is a better option than Keane. Nias looked like he forgot how to walk, but he works hard and he tries, and that's exactly what we needed, and that's exactly what he gave, and I just don't think Moise Keane gave that. Lavin says, Duncan said it all in an interview. He spoke about other players let themselves down, not on my watch. Wayne says, Keane has never been able to play the last 90 minutes for me. Well, he hasn't factually, has he? Tom says, poor man management for me. The only thing that has let Dunk down so far, Keane did look like he was running around with a wardrobe on his back, but still not great by Dunk. Fair play. A little bit of both. Both points of view there. Jem says, Hernandez, where Niasi runs through walls, Keane doesn't eventually. Keane doesn't. Fair enough. Paul says the players are running through big roles because the players are shit scared of the big dunk, and that's what they need, a healthy fear. Eden says, do you think Everton will be back in Europe next season? I hope so. Hernandez says, Jem, I understand that, but how is it that Niasse gets in before Cheng? Just don't put Keane in and put Cheng in the same level. Fair play. Wayne says, I heard stories, even Keane, his missus is disappointed with his stamina. Well, I can't agree or disagree with that one. David says Ferguson expects subs to have as much as himself would. Moise Keane did not have that much impact. Ferguson did Schmeichel on the deck within the first 10 minutes in the 95 FA Cup final. Ian says, what I seen as our squad was not fit. You can see that by the way 2 players have had to miss the next game through injury due to being unfit. I actually agree with that one. Jem says, Cheng, as much as I love him, cannot sprint or as slow if we're going to nick a goal at 1-1 in the dying seconds of the game, defending with 10 outside the box. We need legs. I agree. Paul says, Ped said on Toffee TV yesterday that could be the making of Moise Keane. It could be. I agree with Ped. Hernandez says, at that point in the match, we were only stretching the game out wide when we did have possession in United's half. Put a big man in the middle, Niasse only chased the ball and lost it anyway. But ultimately, he chased it, and that's what was needed, in my opinion. Jem says, well, for some reason, Dunk didn't fancy Cenk or Keane over Niasse. And for that reason, I trust it alone. Lavid says, personally, I don't blame Keane as such, but it's not about being match fit, it's just a case of being Ferguson fit, and maybe that's a good thing. And Anders says, I agree with that, just feel as though the substitution shouldn't have happened at all. Obviously hindsight in 2020, and Ferguson, I trust all the best. Gem, I agree. Wayne says, good to see Martina and Niasse get a great applause surely in January sales with Toss and Walcott. Delph, Snyderland, Sigurdsson and Walcott. I don't think all of them players will be sold, but maybe a few of them. Eugene says we should play Anthony Gordon this Wednesday. Maybe you get a run out. Jem says all the best to you, mate. Thank you very much, Jem. Paul says it can't be a coincidence that both Silver and Ferguson don't fancy Keane. We know what happens at saying he might be putting it in, exactly, and he needs to be putting it in because he needs to be fit enough to put it in. Jem says we're Blues and we all love the club. We do, spot on. Wayne says Gordon has to be used over Christmas. He's going to need to be because of how, depleted the squad is. Jem says hope so. Lavid says the Keane scenario could be reverse psychology. Nothing else has made him fire. Spot on. Jem says agree on Keane, there's something not right with the lad. Soccer MD says, is the Athletic a reliable source? I'd say it is. And he also says Carlo's in Rome, not Merseyside. Exactly, but Alan Myers is also a very reliable source and he's saying he's in Merseyside, so who knows where he is. He's probably, I'd like to think he's sitting in the McDonald's on Lord Street having a mayo chicken and, a medium Coke, but some people might say he's in Rome or, Italy, not Italy, Rome is in Italy, or Vancouver or America, he could well be sitting in Stanley Park, looking at the glass house thinking, fucking hell, that's a belter, is that the new stadium? Or he literally could well be just asleep, not knowing what the fuck's going on in his house, wherever he lives. Wayne says, what's more important in January, Cam, a centre-back or a centre midfielder? Midfielder for me, I think you'd argue both. Probably a midfielder, yeah, probably a midfielder. Tony says, NBA USA announcer said that Moise Keane landed up on the left and Richie had to tell him what position he was playing. Probably got pulled, guy needs to let... Yeah, he did, but that's an easy mistake as well. That's an easy mistake to make, innit? James says, really, Tony, wonder why he got hooked. Ian says, Holgate was our man of the match for me, puts Everton first and gives you a full-time work in the match, and that is every game. Spot on, I agree. Wayne says, any thoughts on the Champions League? So, whatever, innit? Whatever. To be fair to it, there is a couple of, there's a few decent games in there. There's a few decent games that I'll be looking forward to watching. And Jem says, haha, can't boss. Thank you very much. Anyway, that's going to do it for today's live stream. If you have enjoyed, please do hit that like button. It only takes a second. If you're new as well to the channel, please do subscribe. Get the stream shared as well to all your friends and family. Let's get everybody involved as per usual. A big thanks to everybody for watching the live comments. The live comments have been booming once again. So big thank you to everybody for getting involved and for watching. It really does mean a massive amount to me. Honestly, it means so much to me. So big thanks to everybody. A big thanks for all of the support on the recent videos and live streams. It's been absolutely unbelievable and I cannot thank you enough. If you're watching a YouTube video, get your thoughts and comments in the comment section down below and I'll try and get involved with as many of them as possible. Listen, we've got a long week, busy week for Everton, so don't forget to join me tomorrow at around 6 o'clock again for the live game preview of our Carabao Cup fixture against Leicester on Wednesday night. Really big game. Really big chance for Duncan Ferguson in a quarter final at Goodison Park to, under the lights, to go out and again as it may be his last match managing Everton. It'd be nice to see us get the 3 points. And he said then it'd be nice to see us get the win and obviously get into the semi-final of a cup competition, of course. Anyway, big thanks for watching. Like I said, we'll next be live tomorrow at about 6 o'clock, so don't forget to join us then for the live game preview. Jem says, sitting in the Stanley Park, looking at the glass house, thinking, fucking hell, that's posh, yeah. Soccer MD says, yes, Cam, thank you very much, Soccer. Jack says, Ferguson knows how to break down. He does. And Anders says, when's your next live team? As the match is on Wednesday. Live team in tomorrow, 6 o'clock, and then we'll have instant match reaction on Wednesday. We'll have a live team on Thursday. We'll have a live team on Friday. Pretty much a live team every day this week, other than Wednesday, and there'll be an instant match reaction on Wednesday. So don't forget to check all of the content out. Really, really do appreciate it. Wayne says, have a good evening, mate. Roll on Wednesday. Spot on. We'll have the live game preview tomorrow, so don't forget to join us for that one. Hernandez says, you're fantastic, mate. All the best, Cam. Thank you very much. Really do appreciate that one. It means a lot. Jem says, up the F and Softies. Eugene says, see you, bye. See you later, Eugene. Ian says, spot on yet again. Have a good day, mate. Thank you very much, Ian. Really do appreciate that one. And Jem says, see you next time, mate. See you later, Jen. Thanks for getting involved. Anyway, that's it. Big thanks for watching. Please do hit that like button if you have enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at MightyBluesYT, just below there, and join us tomorrow night at 6 PM for the live game preview to our Carabao Cup quarter-final against Leicester City at Goodison Park. Eric says the Ancelotti rumour's true. Who knows? Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Big thanks for watching. Please leave a like if you have enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. And I'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues.